mean, I want to apologize to Kate in private rather than in a public setting. I've done it already numerous times in a public setting, but I haven't had the opportunity to do so in private. So when that time comes, I will apologize to her. And I'll apologize to her for openly having relationships in the public eye, and that was a huge mistake. Because if she would have done that to me, I would be extremely pissed off. Pardon my French. And not because our relationship was over, it's almost like a stab in the back. And now that I think about it, you know, it's just it was a very wrong thing to do. It's hard for me because I can't forgive myself for the things I've done. So to ask for forgiveness from someone who may never forgive me is tough for me. So I do apologize to Kate. I am sorry for doing the things that I did, and I do ask for her forgiveness.
Well, I got to tell you, see, only a real man would say what you just said. And it doesn't make a difference if you ever get the forgiveness or not. What makes a difference is that you did the right thing. You can never go wrong when you do right.
And it's hard for me. I mean, it is hard for me. It's hard. I mean, I didn't really grow up this way. So I don't blame my parents or my grandparents, but it's like, I'm learning as I go. And I have all these outside pressures on me, telling me, like, I'm a douchebag, I'm this, I'm that. And I look at them like, how do they get that? And I just keep on going because I don't really have a choice. I got to work, I got to provide, I got to take care of my kids, and so does Kate. I mean, we're all providing for one thing, for our kids. We're not providing for ourselves because we have 8 kids. When you divide up all the money, there's not much left. It just kind of 2 months ago, just kind of all came crumbling down and just didn't know what to do anymore. And Mike introduced me to a rabbi, and that's who I went to talk to. Not because he's Jewish or a rabbi or any of that stuff. It's just, I had no one else. I have Hailey and her family, and they've been so supportive of me. But then when I met with the panel with Rabbi and stuff like that, and Elie Wiesel, it kind of all just came together, and I had an epiphany. I have a lot of epiphanies these days. I just like that word. It's really nice. And it kind of was like, when I met with them, it was like the first time I felt convicted. And I haven't felt that in like 8 months. So it was like, I even went to Hailey and was like, what am I doing? I don't really want this, I don't really want paparazzi standing outside my building in New York. I fear coming across the GW because I know there's paparazzi outside my building. But I got to come to work. I fear leaving, that they're going to follow me to Pennsylvania. Because when I go to Pennsylvania, I want to be left alone. That's why I go into the woods, so I'm not photographed. So when I take my kids in the backyard, not the front yard, so I'm not photographed. It's totally changed my life. And, it's hard. It's not easy life because, I always say to myself, if I could buy back my privacy, I would.
How did you and John Gosselin come together?
Well, we met through a mutual friend, actually through Mike Heller, who's a dear friend and comes to my Shabbos meals at home. But look, we're both TLC TV hosts. It's interesting. John and Kate is about 8 kids. I have 9, but my show really is about, Shalom in the Home is about trying to repair families in crisis. This is what I do. My parents divorced when I was 8. I've tried very hard to ensure that other children don't have the same fate of being a yo-yo, going from household to household on weekends for the rest of their adolescence.
Mm-hmm. So now, what does John come to you for? I mean, he's looking for guidance. He's looking to sort of turn it all around.
John Gosselin, in my opinion, is a man with a good heart who has made very poor choices. He has been carried away by fame to a destination not of his planning. And I can't imagine that he's proud of some of the things that he's done. My role in his life is simply to remind him of his own moral center. This is a man who's a Christian. This is a man whose father was a dentist who treated people who had no money. His father was the inspiration of his life. How could he suddenly behave in a manner, when he's the father of 8 children, that is contrary to all of his own convictions, to all of his own principles? And the answer is, when you walk around and a million people are taking your picture, it goes to your head a little bit, and you start thinking you can make up your own rules. My role in John's life is to simply remind him of who he was prior to all this, so he can continue to be that same person after all this. He is a father of 8 children. He has to make moral choices that inspire his children. I said to him, are you a success in life if the people who mean the most to you think the least of you? So you might be rich and famous, but if your children grow up and they start saying, you know, Dad, I really, it's hard for me to respect some of the things that you did, that's going to hurt. And you need to think about that now while they're still young. Because our children don't listen to our advice. They copy our actions. Right. Let me make something absolutely clear. I'm not John Goslin's spokesman. Mm-hmm. I'm a rabbi. Right. I'm trying to help him rediscover his moral center. But his actions will determine his standing in the public eye. And he'll be determined by what he does and not by what he says. I certainly believe, however, that his ability to take criticism is actually very developed because I'm very tough on him. I have told him repeatedly that, number one, he should not be in a relationship right now with anyone. Right. And so we can sidestep all the controversy of what was recently said by his girlfriend, because while he is still married and until things are resolved with his wife, he should not be dating at all. It's not acceptable, and he should end it. Also, his children need his complete and absolute focus at this time. They're going through a parent's divorce. I went through that. That's a time of significant pain for children. It's a time of significant chaos, and they need their parents' undivided attention. John has to apologize to his wife for being photographed with other women. I don't care how bad the marriage is. Right. You don't date other women when you're married, and you certainly don't humiliate your wife by being photographed with them. Look, I'm a married man. Right. How would my wife feel, God forbid, if something like that happened? It's devastating for a wife to feel that she has been discarded in favor of someone else. And even if it's true that Kate's actions may have contributed to this, look, it takes 2 to tango. I understand that. You still don't humiliate your wife. He has to apologize to his wife. He has to take responsibility for his actions. I believe strongly that in this dialogue this coming Sunday, he will do all those things. This is not a media event. This is not a publicity event. This is a place in a synagogue, a sacred space, for John to take responsibility for his actions and to declare, both to himself and to the people that will be there, because let's face it, he is a public figure, and there ain't going back on that now. Right. It's time for him to declare how he wants to change his behavior to become a moral man.
And when you're going through all this, when you're getting paparazzi'd every day, when, there's the stress of the marriage, your marriage is failing. And when you have 8 beautiful kids looking at you, and you can't tell them what's going on, and you don't have to tell them. They see it. They see right through us every single day. And then, someone you care about, the media is calling her a homewrecker. The only 2 people that wreck the home are mom and dad. We're the only 2 people that file for divorce. So, you have that stress, and then, litigation and divorce, and then, they're writing stuff about you that it's not true, but you have no more credibility in the media. So it doesn't matter what you say to defend yourself.
Anything you say, they're not going to believe.
It doesn't matter anyway.
And they're going to say that it was for the press.
They write anything they want. Just because it's not televised, people, doesn't mean I'm not that man. Just because you don't see it on TLC, or you don't see it on ABC, or you don't see it on NBC, doesn't mean I'm not that same person. Because tomorrow morning, I'm going home to my kids. I'm going to drive across the GW. I'm going to go back to Pennsylvania. I'm going to put my kids on the bus, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to pick them up at 4 o'clock. I'm going to make them dinner. I'm going to brush their teeth, put them to bed, lay in Hannah's bed, tell her everything's going to be okay, and, pray with her. And then I'm going to go downstairs, and then I'm going to clean up the house. I'm going to do that every single day until I don't have custody anymore. And that's what I do. And, it's so hard to get it out there that I'm still doing the same things I did. But because it's not shown, and you guys aren't watching it every Monday night, doesn't make me a different person.